Welcome to a very special edition of The Piano Men with Stanley Carr. As I mentioned last week, we've got a couple of special guests on this show. I'm so privileged to have on Ed Hill. He is a distinguished country music songwriter and piano player. He has such an illustrious career and recently put out a new book called It Matters to Me. It's published by Heritage Builders. We're going to have more about it tonight and also want to introduce part of what matters to him. One of his three beloved children who he shares with his beautiful wife Laura, the lovely Gracen Hill. We're going to be talking with her as well. The last part of the hour, we're going to talk to her about her rising musical career and what she's doing now. And if we're so lucky, we're going to hope to hear them play at this hour. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Stanley. Glad to be here.
All right.
How are we doing volume-wise?
Yeah, well.
Can you hear this? It's coming through my mic?
Yeah, we'll get it. Yeah,
Okay.
We'll get it situated.
Well, it's good to be here, Stanley.
Oh,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much for asking.
My pleasure. Pleasure is all mine. So let's kind of talk a little bit about your career. Let's talk about your background. Where did you grow up? The town you grew up
Stanley. Well, I was born in a town in California out in the San Joaquin Valley. The town is called Hanford, California. It was about 15,000 people in farm country in the middle, southern central part of the state. And so I was raised on a little cotton farm, and I never knew that you can make a living as a songwriter because nobody ever talked about that. But I always kind of played a little bit of music, and in high school I played in rock and roll bands, and I was when high school started. I started high school in the fall of 1963, so the Beatles and all that stuff was just hitting, and so that was a lot of my high school, playing stuff that was on the radio. The radio station we had where I lived was a station called KLAN. It was Clan. It was called the Clan, like Irish or something, and or Scottish. And they just played what was on the radio, and it was just mostly R&B. I mean, there'd be some Sam Cooke, and there'd be all kinds of different stuff. Now I didn't really get familiar with country until I moved to Bakersfield. I moved to Bakersfield in 1972, and I had a friend who asked me to come there, and that said, well, we got a sit-down job if you want to come and play. And I thought, well, okay, I can make an actual paycheck instead of like a rock and roll. You go play somewhere and you get $50 and it costs you $60 to get there. So anyway, so I went to Bakersfield and I checked it out, and I ended up staying for 7 years. And I learned country music from 72 to about first part of 79 or 78, something like that. So, and I played the clubs there that were still there, the Blackboard, which was a really big dance floor and a really big club in the 40s and in the 50s, 60s. And we sort of mixed country and rock, but they kind of got me in the band because they wanted to do a little bit of rock, but I ended up being in a band with a native Bakersfield bass player by the name of Wayne Durham. And Wayne's brother Bobby he was actually on Capitol Records, and he was a real good singer. And so we got a band together, and there was a guitar player that I lived in Bakersfield for years, named Jim Williams. And he showed up one day, and I didn't really know how to play country music. And he showed up one day, and he had a little twin Fender amp in one hand, and then he had a real nice Gibson 175 in a case in the other hand. And he comes and he opens his case, and he was just a kind of a real slight, small kind of a guy, and I got along with him real good. He opened his case up. He didn't take his guitar out, and we talked for a while. And he told me he named his son Reggie, and his wife was named Jane. And after about a half hour or 20 minutes, he takes his guitar out, he puts it on. He's got it on his chest, and it's real high up on his chest, and it's a really nice 2-pickup hollow body 175 Gibson. Mm-hmm. And he didn't play a thing. And then the bass player Wayne and our drummer Harold They're native Bakersfield guys, and eventually we all got ready to play and got plugged in, and of course I didn't know anything about country music. So anyway, Jim goes to Wayne. He goes, well, what's your flavor? What do you want to play? And Jim named a song off, and we kicked it off. And when Jim started playing, it was music to my ears. He knew he was so good. He was like that. Music and chords were everything to him. I mean, he was real ambidextrous. I mean, he had double jointed fingers. And what was great about him, on top of that, he knew exactly where my level of musicianship was. And he took me under his wing, and he would kind of stand over my shoulder, and he would tell me stuff like how to play. You go, okay, C on the left hand, F chord on the right. And he would just keep going along, and he was playing the whole time. And it was like blowing my mind. He would show me how to do like Jimmy Webb songs, mm-hmm. Glenn Campbell songs. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, really good songs.
Yeah.
And he wrote charts for me. And I was a sponge, you know, and I didn't learn it good, but, you know, I got by. And even when we played, you know, at a club 5 nights a week, he would stand right over my shoulder because I liked it. And one thing about him, he wouldn't teach you unless you wanted to be taught. And he knew I liked that. And a lot of people would reject that because there's a lot to learn. But I was a clean slate because I didn't know any of that stuff, you know. And so that made a big influence on me as a songwriter later on, because some of the stuff he showed me, I used in writing songs. Like, he was a real stickler on bass guitar. He was really good. And, like, you know, he would say things like, you never go, like, if you're changing chords, like you're going from a C to an F, you always in the last bass note needs to be the root or the C. And he would be real stickler about that. And you just, after a while, you just learn to do that. Anyway, mm-hmm. And then after Bakersfield, I went down and Wayne eventually left, the bass player, and he went and started playing at the Palomino Club in North Hollywood, which was over the coastal mountains. So it was, you know, maybe take 2 hours to get there, because Bakersfield to LA isn't very far. But mm-hmm. Anyway, he started doing that, and then one day I knew him, so one day he said, hey, the piano player for the Palomino, the spot's open. Do you want to try it out? And I go, yeah, sure, because it was really cool, because he had a lot of stars come in all the time, because it's in LA, so every crazy person in the world would come in there, and it was really fun. So I went down there on a Monday. It was open like every night, and I sat in, and the club owner, Tommy Thomas, he liked me. And so I eventually just started working there, and then I eventually moved there. And then after that, for about a year or so, or ever long, people would come through like Jerry Lee Lewis, Mickey Gilley, Marty Robbins. I mean, all the big acts would come through there, and we would back them sometimes, because a lot of times they wouldn't have a band. Like Marty Robbins would have him and his 2 or 3 singers, and they'd have those little guitars, and super, super nice man, and we would back them. And so eventually Gilley played there a couple times, and it was about the time that the Urban Cowboy was about to happen. And their piano player, they needed a piano player, and so Johnny Lee was like, you want to try? You know, he liked what I did and asked if I wanted to, play in that, and I said sure. And so there was like 12 guys wanted my job as a piano player in L.A. because they're hard to find. Mm-hmm. And so I went and got on an airplane and went to Texas and got in the Urban Cowboy Band, and we played killer gigs for a couple of years, you know, the Pontiac Superdome, the Houston Astrodome, pretty fantastic. And and I was writing songs the whole time, and I didn't know I was supposed to or not. I just kind of enjoyed it. And I was writing them by myself, and just, you know, I'd put on a little cassette player or something, you know, and I just kept doing that. And then the band would open the show when we had time. They would open the show for them, and then Johnny would come out, and then Gilley would come out. So if we opened the show and had 2 or 3 songs, I would sing a song, and maybe Laura, she eventually got in the band. That's how I met my wife. Mm-hmm. She was a background singer, but she would sing a song, and then she would sing duets with Mickey. And and then we eventually played Vegas and Tahoe and a lot of really, you know, top jobs. And then after about 2 or 3 years or whatever, writing and everything, we'd come to Nashville several times, and I just eventually kind of gravitated toward Nashville, because that seemed like where, if I was going to work on songs or anything, And I kind of played it out on the thing with the Urban Cowboy Band with Mickey Gilley, because I think he was about to go to Branson, and which is a great place for older entertainers to go.
Mhm.
You know, great place. But for me, it was sort of like, I didn't see a big future there, you know. And so Lauren and I actually both left and went to L.A. and then I went to Nashville first, and she was playing jobs like musical jobs with the band, and she was, you know, doing real good. So anyway, I kicked around Nashville for a while. Then I got a job again with, I got a job painting apartments, and then I got a job on weekends playing with Johnny Lee again. And then he wasn't playing with Gilly. And then I would write at night. And then after about a year, I would take some of my songs, and I'd do one a month for a year, paid for it myself. And after about a year, I asked somebody, where can I take somebody to hear my songs? Because it's kind of intimidated when everything on every building says no unsolicited material. And you're like, you know, I'm real thin-skinned. And eventually a girl that I used, Karen Staley, to sing a few songs, I said, who's a publisher that might want to listen to my stuff? And she said, you can play for my publisher, Karen Conrad. She'd love to hear it. So I did. And I took her, out of 12 songs that I had written, I took her 8 that I thought were the best ones. And then I went to where I was renting this little bedroom. And as soon as I got there, she called me and she wanted 4 of the songs.
Oh, wow.
And so we did single song agreements before I signed a publishing deal. And I just kept doing that for a while. And eventually I got part of my publishing, and I got half. And then I got, in '89, I got a Reba single, Till Love Comes Again. So I was like, just about the time I was ready to leave town, I got something. And then it gets, you know, it's kind of scary because you don't know if you're going to get another one again.
Yeah.
And then I got you know, something else cut, like Tracy Lawrence or John Michael Montgomery. And then as time went on, it would just be, you know, a kind of a deal like that where you'd have to do a lot, but every once in a while you might get something cut. It was a different ball game back then than it is now in Nashville. But I was real lucky and got some songs cut. So I didn't mean to talk all the time, Stanley. I'm just
no.
kind of explain that, you know, that. But where I grew up, where I grew up, there was nobody knew or even ever talked about it, being a songwriter. You know, I didn't even know anything about that. But if Nashville was in North Dakota, I'd probably be North Dakota.
Music City.
Yeah, but you know, I was fortunate enough. I had a few things happen to where it let me stay. You know, I was, you know, living cheap. You know, and like I say, I was still painting houses, and you know, I was working doing other stuff. But eventually, though, I got to just be a writer, and so that led me to here, sort of.
Were your parents very supportive of you?
They were. I actually graduated from Fresno State, and I had a bachelor's degree, and I got accepted to the San Joaquin College or San Joaquin Law School there, and I even got my books, and so I had gone to school since I was 4 years old, and I graduated from college, and I was going to go to law school, and right before it was going to start, like within 2 weeks, I just couldn't see myself doing that. I just wasn't the type of, I didn't know anybody that actually liked lawyers, you know, and I didn't see myself shaving every day, wearing a suit, and getting into a law book for years. And music seemed to make people happy. And I wasn't making any money, but I was happy. And my folks, I'm sure, were wishing I would gone and been a lawyer, but they never acted disappointed, ever. They were just as great as they could be. And I even put that in that book.
Oh. And I'm looking through the book. You've rubbed shoulders with there's a who's who. I mean, Elton John, Stevie Wonder, Jerry Lee Lewis, as you were mentioning before. Tell me a little bit about your adventures.
Well, you know, a while ago, he was playing Merle Haggard stuff, you know, and when I lived George was playing Merle Haggard, you know. I was just listening through the door, and I remember those songs, Cherokee Fiddle and If We Make It Through December and stuff. And when I lived in Bakersfield, everybody in the clubs played Haggard songs, you know. And Buck Owens, I never heard anybody play Buck Owens songs, but you know, he lived there, and he was from Texas, and he did great. He had, he got his own radio stations and stuff. But Merle, he would come into those clubs. I mean, he was already a huge superstar. And he would come in, though, just to practice. I was in several of the clubs, one called the Texas Barrel House and then the Blackboard. And Merle would just come in, and he'd bring a fiddle. He wouldn't sing. He just wanted to practice, and he'd get up with the band. And then after he got done, though, he would go out and talk to the people out there, the customers, the patrons, and they all loved that because they're all just hardworking people. And Bakersfield people all are descendants of people that migrated from the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma, Texas, and all that, they were the sons and daughters of those people. So they were all, down-to-earth, hard-working people. And and then Haggard, and this was back in the same bass player I'm talking about, Wayne Durham, who's a friend of mine. Back then, there was a time that he played for Merle and the Strangers bass, and I got to know Don Markham, the horn player for Merle. Don was great. Played horn, played trumpet, played sax. So anyway, Mark Urey, who's the youngest member of the Strangers, had been playing with him for years. Great piano player. And I think, according to Wayne, I didn't talk to Mark about it, but Mark wanted to try to go on his own, and Leon Russell was real popular. And I think, according to Wayne, that Mark kind of pictured himself like that, and so he wanted to try it. And I know that Merle loved him like a son and said, you ought to stay with me. So anyway, Mark went out, and I filled in. And so, it was real interesting because I got to see Merle. I never really knew him before that, and I didn't know him well then. But he was a quiet man. And, when you're playing the Bob Wills stuff like Cherokee Fiddle, this was right after kind of he made that album, the best damn fiddle player in the world. And he loved Western swing. He loved it. And he was so into it. And and I was real green at that stuff because it's real, it's a, it's got all those chord changes like that, and I was just like, whoa, can you guys help me? And Roy Nichols on guitar, he was like a one-note player, and he was like, I don't really know how to help you. And Norm Hamlet was kind of the same way on steel. And so Merle, he had a little office inside of his big office, like and inside there, he asked me to come in one day, and it was real nice, man. And he had a desk, and he had some books on a shelf behind it. And one of the books he pulled out, it had stuff in there that Al Strickland, which was Bob Wills' piano player. It had technique and stuff by Al Strickland on how to play piano. And Merle gave me that book, and I thought it was so nice that he thought enough to have me learn it. And I just went crazy trying to learn that stuff, I mean, because he's I'd read, I'm plumb fool about I'd read, and that was all that kind of stuff. And I can't even play it now, but and then eventually, after about, I don't know, 6 weeks or whatever, Mark decided that, he wanted to come back because it was it's rough out there. And so they said, man, if it happens again, we'll let you know. And I just thanked him. And I was like, who wouldn't want to do that? But so that was my little stint there. And years later at the BMI Awards in 2006, I won the Songwriter of the Year. And Merle Haggard on one side of the stage and Chris Christopherson on the other both got Icon Awards, that big award that they give those guys. And I remember I went over and said hi to Merle and talked to him about Bakersfield a little bit. Of course, a lot of people were trying to take up his time. And, and I played all those clubs in Bakersfield when there was nobody there, played all a bunch of Merle Haggard songs, played a bunch of Chris Christopherson songs and everything. But that night I got up on stage and I would look to my left and I see where Merle Haggard was standing up applauding for me. And I looked on my right, and Chris Christopherson was standing up applauding for me for the songs I had written. And I know that they were just standing there because of protocol or whatever. But in my mind, I was like, I'll never forget that moment because it had been years and years ago that I played in Bakersfield. And for me to stand up and them applauding for my songs when they were such great songwriters, it was a great feeling, So.
You moved to Nashville, and you wrote for Martina McBride and Reba McEntire.
Yeah.
What was it like writing with those people?
I didn't write with them. They just did my songs. it was really nice when we had ladies, a lot more ladies that were recording artists.
Mm-hmm.
I truthfully, um, I'd had trouble getting cuts by male artists, and so I just decided, well, I'm going to try to do female too. And back then, you had Trisha Yearwood, you had Martina, you had Faith, Reba. Uh, you had a lot of other ladies. Pam Tillis. They were around. And they also said their subject matter on their songs was deeper. Like they had a wider range of what they would sing about.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because on Martina, I have a song. I had 3 singles on Martina, and one of them, "How Far," and a single I had on Faith, "It Matters to Me," and a single. I had another single on Martina, "Whatever You Say."
Mm-hmm.
I had 3 on her, but those 3 songs right there, "Whatever You Say" on Martina, "How Far," and "It Matters to Me," are all the same story. They're all like a different way of saying, okay, this relationship isn't working, and I'm had enough. Either we're going to make it work or I'm leaving.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on whatever you say right now.
Right.
Or how far do I walk away? Or it matters to me. Is it over? And I didn't do that on purpose. And I had co-writers who were different on each one of those songs. But looking back, it was something a woman kind of empowers a woman,
Sure.
and doesn't make her look weak. And she's like, no, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. And then I give them a range, like on whatever you say and how far. There's an octave jump between the verse and the chorus, and so a real singer can belt it.
Mm-hmm.
And Martina's a real singer, and I never even met Martina.
Yeah.
She just liked my songs.
Yeah.
To get 3 singles on her,
Mm-hmm.
I had George Lorraine on Trisha, and I had a couple singles on Reba, Heart is a Lonely Hunter, and anyway, yeah, I was real lucky with the ladies.
Yeah.
on that stuff. So, but that just trying to write songs for them, I didn't have to stick to what guys were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go back to Bakersfield to Jim Williams, which is like a real chord. They're like beautiful songs, and so, and I had great demos on those. On one of them, on Whatever You Say, the demo singer was Sarah Evans. And Sarah Evans became a big star on the same label as Martina later on. So I had some real good. Even on demos, I used to get Trisha Yearwood to sing demos. I've had Garth Brooks sing demos for me. In fact, I wasn't even going to use him anymore because I thought, he's all right. So, but those times change,
Right.
And now, it's completely different. It's a different ball game altogether.
Well, why don't we hear you play something for us? Beautiful.
That's the name of my book.
Yeah. Yes. Ed Hill, It Matters to Me, one of country music's most beloved songwriters. It's published by Heritage Building Publishers. Tell me about the book. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, it wasn't like, hey, man, you're going to write a book or you on an ego trip. It wasn't anything like that. It was the fact that I just wanted to save a little bit of history. And my dad always said, the 99.9% of history is lost. And even today, in today's world with all your video stuff and everything, it's still lost. And if you just take, your grandma or somebody like that, all those experiences, all that stuff. And my folks, my mother and father are wonderful people. And I just wanted my children and people to kind of know stuff that they would never know. And that's kind of what started it. And the people that published this book, they wanted to hear about some of my songs. So I put about 25 songs in there and told about them. I think I've had over 40 singles and probably 400 songs cut. But I also been doing this for 35 years, know. And so, but so that kind of got it going. Now, my book actually goes to the stores, Harris Teeter or Davis Kid or whatever the stores are. I think August 15th. But you can pre-order it now. I've got copies. You can go to www.edhillmusic.com and I can. If you just if you want an autographed copy, it'll say autographed by now. You press that, it comes to me. I'll see it. I'll sign it and send it to you.
Yeah.
www.edhillmusic.com. I mean, there's a couple of ways to buy it, but that's, if you want an autographed copy. And so I just got that last week or whatever.
Wow.
But it actually goes to the stores August 15th.
Wow. And you've won several awards throughout your career. You've mentioned you won Songwriter of the Year from BMI in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
You've been nominated for several Academy of Country Music Awards in the piano player category.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel really good, of course. I mean, and things that people in the business that recognize you, I mean, last year I got nominated to be in the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. I didn't get in there, but they nominated me again this year, and they haven't voted yet. So, I mean, I may not get in there. I don't know, but that's 2 years in a row, and it's just such an honor because I respect the people that are in it so much because I know what, they're the greatest songwriters in Nashville, and so just to be nominated, is great. And then, I've had dozens of BMI awards because of all these songs, I've had songs in movies and, but, again, that's basically all I've done. It's sort of like I went to a songwriter room and walked out 30, 40 years later,
In your opinion, what makes a good song? How does the songwriting process work?
Well, to me, every song's different, but the song has a job to do. Like, what's it supposed to do? Is it supposed to make you cry? Is it supposed to make you laugh? Is it going to take you back in time? What is the purpose of the song? That, to me, always crosses my mind. And that's not all the criteria, of course, but it crosses my mind. And if there's any red flags that come up, I mean, nobody cares how long, when somebody says, hey, I wrote this song in 5 minutes. I'm like, well, that's great. Who cares? Nobody cares. It's like, I don't care if it took you 3 months, 5 minutes, 2 years. You either got a great song or you got part of a great song or you just got stuff, You just got to make the whole thing right. And, sometimes starting it's a lot easier than finishing it. So, and listen, keep your antennas out, And here's the thing, nobody can hide their music from you. If it's on the radio or if it's out there, I can hear it and I study it. And I used to study it more than I do now or whatever, but it all depends on what it is. But I have the heart of a listener. Like my barometer is if it does something to me, it'll do something to them. I'm not like a record executive that's all about numbers. Music isn't wallpaper to me. Music is like, that's the same reason like when a while ago when we heard Merle Haggard songs and stuff. I mean, that touches me. I love that stuff because it's really good. And, it's really, I don't know if it's Connie Smith singing that, who was singing that stuff, but I mean, they're real singers and they're real emotional. And then you tell the difference. It's not just, it's not just a conveyor belt of people making, trying to make money for a few, people that run the labels, and so the song has a job to do, and I think that's kind of important. And I always like it to not do something that's going to go out of fashion, like I don't like talking about certain type of things that may not be around next year. Like I don't like putting things in there about a certain type of phone or things, that may be,
trendy.
I want to make it, I don't want to I remember when Alabama, and, I love Alabama songs, but when some of the rock stuff in them, I remember when they took the tom-toms, they're like, do, and then that stuff's out of fashion.
Exactly.
I want a timeless classic that's still good in 20 years. And I want to be on the Icon station. And, that isn't going to happen very often, but, it doesn't have to happen very often. And I've been real lucky to have a few that have become standards. I mean, like That Matters to Me, that's a standard now. And, Be My Baby Tonight, I'm John Michael Montgomery. And then last year, I had Most People Are Good on Luke Bryan, which I had no idea Luke Bryan would cut that song. I mean, I just tried writing something that I liked with my friends, and it just happened to be at the right place at the right time, But you do got to get your songs, try to get them heard, I mean, don't give up just because there's other great people. There's people writing great songs along with people that are just, in a certain camp. But there are some great songwriters and there's some really talented artists and stuff. And so just, pitch your stuff. Nobody's ever told me not to pitch them a song, which is, get them a song. And it's just, I'm always on the outside looking in. It's sort of like you're looking through a window that's closed and the curtain's closed. It's kind of hard to get in, but you just keep doing it enough, and if they can hear it and they think it's actually something that's going to help their career, they may do it. I mean, I've had a lot more rejection than I've had success, but you don't see that.
Right.
It's just part of it. You lose your thin skin. You just lose it, and don't worry about it. So.
Well, this book is called It Matters to Me. What matters to you the most?
Well, a lot of things matter to me. My children, of course. I dedicated it to my wife and children. I mean, being a good dad, and that's what you're going to remember. And a lot of this book is the fact I wanted my children, whether they read it this year or they read it in 10 years, I want them to know about certain things like integrity and how, are you as good as your word? I mean, I even got something in there about contracts. That's okay, but and through my life and through my father's too. I mean, contracts by big companies have been broken, and handshakes. If you can't do it on a handshake, which nobody does, and I get that, but I think everybody has an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other, and I think you know the difference. And so you just go, if you're going to cross that line, I've crossed that line, I'm sure, a lot when I was younger, but time's kind of changed me a little bit, and integrity is definitely something I'd like to think that, I have my bar is up on that one. I'd like to think so. I mean, other people might not think so, but being a good dad is absolutely. And then over the last few years, the Songwriters revenue has gone way down because of streaming and downloading and everything. And I'm kind of a defender of them because it's real hard for people to write songs for a living anymore. It's just really super difficult, and I don't want to pop their dream. I want them to do that. It's just it's so inside, and the bar isn't as high as it used to be on what's going on there. There's some great songs, but there's a lot of pretty good average songs that get on there too. And it's just, record companies have power, and they work with radio, and they get their stuff played, and they work out their the live shows. They get money for that, and they get money for the T-shirt sales, and so it's hard to get in there from the outside. But I've been real lucky, and you just try to write the best song you can write, and that's the only way to do it. So it's got to touch somebody, but it's got a job to do.
And you've certainly passed on your dreams to your children.
Well, they were born and raised in a house where there's guitars and pianos sitting around, and music, and their mother sang to them when they were young, and they definitely got it in them, And I have one right here today.
We've got one, and we're graced with her presence. Gracen. No pun intended. Grace, the lovely Gracen Hill.
Hi.
How's it going, Gracen?
Here, I'll give you the mic.
Going well.
Going well. I love to hear that. We've known each other for a long time, been friends for years. Tell me a bit about how you got started with music.
Well, my dad for sure, and my mom. Like he said, guitars, pianos, everything, all over the place. I guess when I started singing Disney princess songs and dressed up as Ariel and went around the house screaming at the top of my lungs, and did talent shows. I did a lot of talent shows, like growing up.
She won a songwriting contest, national songwriting contest, when you were 11 or 12 or something?
Whoa.
11.
11
years old.
She's really, really good writer.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it because I'm her dad, but she really is. I mean, because I wouldn't be encouraging that, because it's so hard to, you gotta have a passion for it. It's the only way to do it.
I do.
Yeah, she does. You gotta you can't take no for an answer.
Absolutely not.
I never was good at that.
No, she wasn't. No.
Ask him.
Still not.
And we've gone to camps together, Kids on Stage.
Yes, so many camps. We did, Kids on Stage up until probably 13-ish.
Yeah.
And then started the Jam and did that. And then, eventually once, like we were all interns by the end of it. And, we're working it and helping the younger kids out. And kind of just going from there. And meanwhile, I've had a few projects, you know what I mean? And you grow and you learn and you kind of weed out what you don't like. And over the course of 5 or 6 years, I've really come into what I like to do and my sound. So yeah.
I know you were mentioning earlier about your Ariel obsession,
Yes.
your Disney princess days, but do you have any other fun memories, musical memories growing up? Because I'm sure the house was just filled with musical noise.
I mean, yeah, it really was. I mean, Savannah, my sister, definitely was a big part of that. She was older and cooler and meaner. I'm just kidding. Hope you're listening. And but she would have friends over, and Dylan Jones, who's on here last week, Jake Finch, have Jackson Turner, all of them come over and play, and I'd be around that. But I mean, definitely just every kind of Disney princess you can imagine.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I liked musicals. I was in school plays. I did things like that. Very just active all over the place with it. I always knew that's what I wanted to do.
Were you big into karaoke? You love doing karaoke?
Well, I feel like in Nashville, you got to be 21 to do the karaoke, or 18 at least. But yeah, when I could, at birthday parties or whatever it was, usually mine, because I would have the karaoke. I remember I had one of those, I guess it was like a stereo thing, and it had the mic attached with the lyrics, and you just sit there and annoy your parents for like 2 hours straight. But yeah, I did have that.
Do you remember your first teacher teaching music, teaching singing and piano?
Well, Carol Whitehead taught me piano when I was really young and had a small attention span. And then I did a lot. Let's see, I did dance lessons for a really long time, ballet, tap, jazz, and clogging.
Wow.
And hip hop, but that was when I was older. And so I kind of just, I wanted to be a triple threat or whatever. I can't dance anymore, but that's okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where I'm going with it, but.
Are you proud of her development so far?
Oh, yeah. She's great. She's just in a tough business, but yeah.
It's okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
She's
a real deal.
Who are some of your influences growing up as an artist?
Ooh, well, with my mom, she always played Aretha Franklin. That's a big one. She played Avril Lavigne, Amy Winehouse, Regina Spektor. Personally, I listen to a lot of I love Lauryn Hill, and I love kind of the more R&B, neo soul kind of realm. That's what I like to listen to. But that's a few. I think that's a solid list. Justin Timberlake, love him.
Of course. Beyonce.
Oh yeah, well, she's everybody's influence.
Who doesn't love Beyonce?
I know, right? Rihanna, I love Rihanna.
Yeah.
I really love SZA. SZA's my favorite artist right now. Or just, I think I'm obsessed with her.
Is that John Philip Sousa?
No.
So I know in the beginning you did a lot more pop, R&B kind of music. I know throughout the years at Jam you were very into this, Whitney Houston, Beyonce, Aretha Franklin, powerhouse stuff. And then I noticed around maybe a couple of years ago you kind of evolved your sound into more hip-hop, rap. Tell me about how you got into that and what kind of drew you away from the whole pop.
Well, it's definitely, I'm still considered pop 100%. I think that I still have that capability, and I definitely have that pop sensibility in my music, but I signed to a hip hop producer. So when that happened, it was just kind of like, all right, well, and I always knew that's what I wanted. 'Cause like I said, I had been working on projects that, I was growing and learning and wasting money. And, by that time that I met Jim Johnson, who I'm signed to, he was kind of the sound that I was looking for. I wanted the program drums. I wanted that. And I was so used to being around the live band things, and, they're all amazing musicians, but I just needed something different. I wanted to be more radio friendly, and I always loved R&B and urban music. So I was like, all right, well, kind of, and my voice, it just fits. So I was like, all right, here we are.
What do you think of the genre of music she's chosen, Ed?
I think it's good. I think it's good. She's natural at it. She doesn't have to be somebody she's not.
Right.
And, a lot of that I love. It just has to be, I think in every genre of music there's good and bad and mediocre. So
there's some bad music
I
out there.
I appreciate good in all of it.
I agree.
So, yeah, I love Amy Winehouse. There's just so much.
Yeah, Amy's a big one.
I love it, man. But there's some just like in country that I'm like, it's just stuff, So it all depends what it is,
Any favorite stories of making the music behind the scenes, like recording?
Well, I mean, definitely lots of late nights and just being gross at 4 a.m. in the studio. But I mean, my most recent story, it's not necessarily about making the music, but I just shot a video it's called Prada Marfa. It's in Marfa, Texas, but it's a abandoned Prada building, or so it looks. It's actually an art installation that a man built, and it's a Prada building in the middle of nowhere, so it's just all desert. And we shot a video out there, which was really cool, and we drove for over 48 hours in the car in the past 3 days, and I got home like an hour before this. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's been good. But it's been fun.
And you've done a lot of traveling lately.
Oh yeah, so this year's been nuts. I went to Taiwan at the beginning of the year, just because I wanted to go to Taiwan. I've been.
That was a plane ride for you.
The plane ride was awesome. Korean Air, exceptional, great food. But yeah, I went to Taiwan. I went to LA for all of March and had a bunch of sessions there. That was so much fun. Met a lot of great artists out there, a lot of good writers, producers. I mean, it's LA, they're everywhere. I got close with this EDM group called Bonnie and Clyde. Paige and Daniel are their names. And through my boyfriend, Nate, who kind of introduced us and helped me get, a place to stay there. And we all became really close friends. And just that was a whole experience in itself, just living with them. And they're on crazy tours and, living the dream. So it's just really inspiring. But I did the LA thing and then went to St. Louis 2 weeks ago for a show. And then, I did the Texas video. I feel like I did one other thing somewhere. I got to go back to Texas at the end of the year for a wedding. I'm not excited.
Oh, wow.
But I love the people, so of course I want to go.
How do you feel your parents have, and your siblings, obviously, inspired you as a musician and to write?
Well, definitely, saw my dad and knew what he did. And I think a lot of it, just always seeing it. And he always encouraged me, and my mom always encouraged me. And, they put me in lessons and put me in dance lessons and performance lessons and, piano lessons, guitar lessons. I did all the lessons, and really just pushed me to do what I love, because they always knew that I loved it. And even when I didn't.
One thing about Gracen and her sister Savannah, their mother did what is known as the Jam, all those
Jam
years.
camp.
Yes,
and
the
you
Jam
were
camp.
in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped all the kids around here that wanted you, them, and they got to be in bands, nice PA, audience, performance, original
Such a
songs.
huge experience
It was
for all
great.
of us.
Yeah, it really was.
It was real.
And I know that my wife Laura, she misses that, but I mean, it really was gratifying that all the kids that wouldn't have had anybody listening to them. There was a lot of them. There was like,
it's an outlet.
yeah, I mean, a drummer that never played with anybody. How do I find a punk band? Well, right here.
Dylan Jones was saying a couple weeks ago when I had him on that he was really looking forward to having all the instructors every year come back, and it was just a joy to see everybody kind of be under one roof. Do you have a favorite instructor from your time there?
Oh, that's a good question. All of my sister. Let's just throw
of
that.
Course,
my sister was
Savannah.
an instructor.
Great.
Yeah, no, that was honestly like one of my favorite bands that I was in, just because she did such a great job. And she's stupid good at everything. She's a utility player on fire.
Fantastic guitar player.
Oh yeah, and just composer, and you know, she really we did a big melodic mashup kind of thing of 7 songs or something, and she just whipped it together.
Mm-hmm. Knocked it out of the park.
Oh yeah, but there were so many good ones. Dave Toledo, love Dave Toledo forever.
Latin Ensemble.
Oh yeah, no, he's the best.
He's got great
energy.
Great students in his bands. Great students. Why don't we have you play something, Gracen?
Sure. Yeah.
You want to play something? Well,
yeah, Dad.
Well, come on. Let me move myself here.
Yeah.
Do you want to sit over in this chair so you don't have to?
Well, I gotta get out.
He's stuck, folks.
Live radio. Live radio. Gotta love it. All right.
Okay, I'm in the lounge.
Okay.
Now.
All right.
Am I gonna be really loud if I put this in front of me? You know how I sing.
Yeah, you can have it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, just have it a little bit.
How's it sound, guys?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So those piano lessons. Thanks.
All right.
I'll let you have your seat back, Dad.
Woo! Gracen.
It got loud in here.
Yes, it did. It did. But you know what? That's great, though. It's music. Music. Love it. Yeah. So let me ask this. What advice would you give to parents of musicians that want to grow up and do something with their lives?
Don't do it. I'm just kidding.
Well, it all depends. You kind of got to look at each person. I don't know. If you can look at it honestly, you need a little bit of, luck, talent, and if there's any sort of money stream, that would help. But you can't stop somebody that wants to do it. You really can't. I mean, and if you're not that kind of a person, you're probably not going to do it anyway. Mm-hmm. I know musicians are the same way, man. I've talked to guitar players like, man, I just came to Nashville just so I could play guitar. And they might not be making a lot of money, but they're doing what they love. So you can't stop them. And if you can, then they're not going to do it anyway, is what I find. Mm-hmm. So that would sort of, they say there's a great wall around Nashville, not to keep the songwriters out, but to keep them in. Because after a while, how bad do you want to do it? It's, you got to create something from nothing every time. Mm-hmm. And you're, starting something from nothing is kind of a lot easier than finishing something from nothing, to me. So, but the satisfaction, it's great if you're the artist singing too. There's a lot more worth it, like to Gracen, because she is the artist. And when you're supporting the artist, your revenue streams aren't near as fluid. It's tough. And now if you're in a band, a real band, it was great if you were in the Stones back in 1960. That was great.
Yeah.
And you're in the Beatles, and if you can stick together. I don't really believe much in the shows on TV that The Voice, America's Got Talent. They're okay. You find out, but there's some talented people for sure. It's just a whole different ball game, and it's a lot about the judges, and but there are talented people. But I don't know if I don't think that's the way to do it. I think you got to go experience it yourself a little bit. But then everybody has a different road. Nobody's going to get there the same. And then when you get somewhere, are you there? Are you on top of the mountain? Are you trying to do it for a long period of time? I mean, find great songs if you can't write them.
Absolutely.
That's what you got to do, man. Is find great songs.
Well, thank you both for coming on the show.
Stanley.
It means a lot to me.
I hope I didn't discourage anybody.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Thank you so much.
No problem. So tell us again.
You can get my book right now. Pre-orders www.edhillmusic.com, and just press where it says autograph copy, and it'll tell you how to do it. And I'll send you a book signed. They'll hit the stores August 15th, and we're doing a book signing. I'm doing one at the Country Music Hall of Fame on August 23rd, along with another book writer, Dak Alley, who's got a book out called, it goes a little something like this, which is about songwriters, and I'm also in that book.
And Gracen, tell us a little bit about your upcoming shows.
So my next show in Nashville is August 22nd at Analog, which is in the Hutton Hotel. But I do have a couple pending that may
Yeah.
pop up sooner.
Yeah.
So if you guys follow me on Instagram or Facebook, it's GracenHill on all social media, Spotify, iTunes. That's my name. So.
Well, there you have it. Thank you both again for coming on. This is the Piano Men with Stanley Carr. Come back next week. We've got another fun show planned. And I will see you next week. Thank you, everyone, for